There would be a highest law of the kind that I have sketched if some cosmic possibility obtained because it had some special feature. This feature we can call the selector. If there is more than one such feature, they are all partial selectors. Just as there are various cosmic possibilities, there are various explanatory possibilities. For each of these special features, there is the explanatory possibility that this feature is the selector, or is one of the selectors. Reality would then be the way it is because, or partly because, this way had this feature. There is one other explanatory possibility, that there is no selector. If that is true, it is random that reality is as it is. Events may be in one sense random, even though they are causally inevitable. That is how it is random whether a meteorite strikes the land or the sea. Events are random in a stronger sense if they have no cause. That is what most physicists believe about some features of events involving subatomic particles. If it is random what reality is like, the universe not only has no cause, it has no explanation of any kind. This claim we can call the brute fact view. Few features can be plausibly regarded as possible selectors. Though plausibility is a matter of degree, there is a natural threshold to which we can appeal. If we suppose that reality has some special feature, we can ask which of two beliefs would be more credible: that reality merely happens to have this feature, or that reality is the way it is because this way has this feature. If the second would be more credible, this feature can be called a credible selector. Return, for example, to the question of how many possible local worlds exist. Of the different answers to this question, all and none give us, I have claimed, credible selectors. If either all or no worlds existed, that would be unlikely to be a coincidence. But suppose that 58 worlds existed. This number has some special properties, such as being the smallest number that is the sum of 7 different primes. It may be just conceivable that this would be why 58 worlds existed, but it would be more reasonable to believe that the number that existed merely happened to be 58. There are, I have claimed, some credible selectors. Reality might be some way because that way is the best, or the simplest, or the least arbitrary, or because its obtaining makes reality as full and varied as it could be, or because its fundamental laws are, in some way, as elegant as they could be. Presumably, there are other such features which I have overlooked. In claiming that there are credible selectors, I am assuming that some cosmic and explanatory possibilities are more probable than others. This assumption may be questioned. Judgments of probability, it may again be claimed, must be grounded on facts about our world. So such judgments cannot be applied either to how the whole of reality might be, or to how reality might be explained. This objection is, I believe, unsound. When we choose between scientific theories, our judgments of their probability cannot rest only on predictions based on established facts and laws. We need such judgments in trying to decide what these facts and laws are, and we can justifiably make such judgments when considering different ways in which the whole of reality may be, or might have been. Compare two such cosmic possibilities. In the first, there is a lifeless universe consisting only of some spherical iron stars, whose relative motion is as it would be in our world. In the second, things are the same, except the stars move together in the patterns of a minuet, and they are shaped like either Cary Grant or Queen Victoria. We would be right to claim that of these two possibilities, the first is more likely to obtain. In making that claim, we would not mean that it is more likely that the first possibility obtains. Since this possibility is the existence of a lifeless universe, we know that it does not obtain. We would be claiming that the possibility is intrinsically more likely, or that, to put it roughly, it had a greater chance of being how reality is. If some possibility is more likely to obtain, that will often make it more likely that it obtains. But though one kind of likelihood supports the other, they are quite different. Another objection may again seem relevant here. Of the countless cosmic possibilities, a few have special features, which I have called credible selectors. If such a possibility obtains, we have, I have claimed, a choice of two conclusions. Either reality, by an extreme coincidence, merely happens to have this feature, or, more plausibly, this feature is one of the selectors. It may be objected that, when I talk of an extreme coincidence, I must be assuming that these cosmic possibilities are all equally likely to obtain. But I have now rejected that assumption. And if these possibilities are not equally likely, my reasoning may seem to be undermined. As before, that is not so. Suppose that, of the cosmic possibilities, those that have these special features are much more likely to obtain. As this objection rightly claims, it would not then be amazing if such a possibility merely happened to obtain. But that does not undermine my reasoning, since it is another way of stating my conclusion. It is another way of saying that these features are selectors. These remarks do show, however, that we should distinguish two ways in which some feature may be a selector. Probabilistic selectors make some cosmic possibility more likely to obtain, but leave it open whether it does obtain. On any plausible view, there are some selectors of this kind, since some ways for reality to be are intrinsically more likely than some others. Thus, of our two imagined universes, the one consisting of spherical stars is intrinsically more likely than the one with the dancing stars that are shaped like Queen Victoria or Cary Grant. Besides probabilistic selectors, there may also be one or more effective selectors. If some possibility has a certain feature, this may make this possibility not merely intrinsically more likely, but the one that obtains. Thus, if simplicity had been the effective selector, that would have made it true that nothing ever existed. And if maximality is the effective selector, as it may be, that is what makes reality as full as it could be. When I talk of selectors, these are the kind I mean. There are, we have seen, various cosmic and explanatory possibilities. In trying to decide which of these obtain, or are actual, we can in part appeal to facts about our world. Thus, from the mere fact that our world exists, we can deduce that the null possibility does not obtain. And, since our world seems to contain pointless evils, we have reason to reject the axiarchic view. Consider next the brute fact view, on which reality merely happens to be as it is. No facts about our world could refute this view, but some facts would make it less likely that this view is true. If reality is randomly selected, what we should expect to exist are many varied worlds, none of which had features that, in the range of possibilities, were at one extreme. This is what we should expect because, in much the largest set of cosmic possibilities, that would be what exists. If our world has very special features, that would count against the brute fact view. Return now to the question whether God exists. Compared with the uncaused existence of one or many complicated worlds, the hypothesis that God exists has been claimed to be simpler and less arbitrary, and thus more likely to be true. But this hypothesis is not simpler than the brute fact view. And if it is random which cosmic possibility obtains, we should not expect the one that obtains to be as simple and unarbitrary as God's existence is claimed to be. Rather, as I have just said, we should expect there to be many worlds, none of which had very special features. Ours may be the kind of world that, on the brute fact view, we should expect to observe. Similar remarks apply to the all worlds hypothesis. Few facts about our world could refute this view. But if all possible local worlds exist, the likely character of our world is much the same as on the brute fact view. That claim may seem surprising given the difference between these two views. One view is about which cosmic possibility obtains, the other is about why the one that obtains, and these views conflict. Since, if we knew that either view was true, we would have strong reason not to believe the other. If all possible worlds exist, that is unlikely to be a brute fact. But, in their different ways, these views are both non-selective. On neither view do certain worlds exist because they have certain special features. So, if either view is true, we should not expect our world to have such features. To that last claim, there is one exception. This is the feature with which we began, that our world allows for life. Though this feature is, in some ways, special, it is one that we cannot help observing. That restricts what we can infer from the fact that our world has this feature. Rather than claiming that being life-allowing is one of the selectors, we can appeal to some version of the many worlds hypothesis. If there are very many worlds, we would expect a few worlds to be life-allowing, and our world is bound to be one of these few. Consider next special features of another kind, ones that we are not bound to observe. Suppose we discover that our world has such a feature, and we ask whether that is no coincidence. It may again be said that, if there are many worlds, we would expect a few worlds to have this special feature. But that would not explain why it is true of our world. We could not claim, as with the feature of being life-allowing, that our world is bound to have this feature. So the appeal to many worlds could not explain away the coincidence. Suppose, for example, that our world were very good, or were wholly law-governed, or had very simple natural laws. Those facts would both count against the unselected views. Both the all-worlds hypothesis and the brute fact view. It is true that, if all worlds exist, or there are very many randomly selected worlds, we should expect a few worlds to be very good, or wholly law-governed, or to have very simple laws. But that would not explain why our world had those features. So we would have some reason to believe that our world is the way it is, because this way has those features. Does our world have such features? Ones that count against the unselective views? Our world's normative or evaluative features seem not to count against these views, since they seem the mixture of good and bad that, on the unselective views, we should expect. But our world may have two other special features, being wholly law-governed or having simple laws. Neither feature seems to be required in order for life to be possible, and among possible life-containing worlds, a far greater range would not have these features. Thus, for each law-governed world, there are countless variants that would fail in different ways to be wholly law-governed. And, compared with simple laws, there is a far greater range of complicated laws. So, on both the unselective views, we should not expect our world to have these features. If it has them, as physicists might yet discover, that would give us reasons to reject both the brute fact view and the all-worlds hypothesis. We would have some reason to believe that there are at least two partial selectors, having simple laws in being law-governed. There may be other features of our world from which we can try to infer what reality is like and why, but observation can take us only part of the way. If we can get further, that will have to be by pure reasoning.